Hello, welcome Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 11, Marriage and its Changing Patterns. Let us start our lecture with the topic Marriage Rituals and Status. First, we discuss wedding ceremonies and rites. Marriage in India, like everywhere else in the world, entails some rites and ceremonies. Of course, variations exist in rites not only in terms of religion but also in terms of caste, sect, and rural and urban residence. And feast and generally common features of wedding celebrations of all communities in India. Their scale generally follows the socio-economic status of the families of the bride and bridegroom. You may occasionally find certain sections or groups of people who do not have religious rites in the marriage. Such marriages are referred to as customary marriage, which include quite simple practices. For example, among some group living in the Himalaya tract, putting a ring in the bride's nose is a customary form of marriage. Customary form of marriage are generally feature of those groups which permit and practice divorce and secondary marriages. The second marriage of the widow or the separated or divorced woman has a simple ceremony to indicate the renewal of her married status. The Special Marriage Act of 1954 provides for secular and civil marriage before a registrar. This act applied to all Indian citizens who choose to make use of its provision, irrespective of religious affiliation. Civil marriage enables a person to avoid the expense of traditional wedding. All the same, weddings are generally an expensive affair for a larger majority of people. Let us examine in the next section why wedding continues to initiate a large cycle of exchange of material and non-material aspect of status. Now the next point is marriage and status. We find that in most societies, so also in India, wedding rituals and ceremonies involve both material as well as non-material transactions between the bride giver and the bride taker. Such transactions reflect the social structure of the concerned society. Bearing some exceptions, you would notice that there is a transfer of the wife to her husband's family. Besides the transfer of the wife, there are two major types of transfers of material wealth that accompany marriage. In one, wealth travels in the opposite direction of the bride, and in another, it travels along with the bride in the same direction. The former is identified as the bride price and the latter as a dowry. The following figure from Bernard and Good shows the movement of goods in relation to women in both bride wealth and dowry. Certain patrilineal tribes and some castes in the middle and lower rungs of the caste ladder practice the custom of the bride price. For details about variations in the form and amount of the bride price, for region to region, from tribe to tribe and within a tribe from time to time. In some part of the North India, bargaining for bride price is quite common. In some tribes, the bride's father gets the services of the groom as a form of bride price. For instances in such bride services in other parts of the world see. In a general context, hold that bride price and bride wealth do not refer to the exchange of goods by the bride and groom. They refers to the exchange units, that is the families of the bride and groom respectively. For a somewhat long discussions of the uses of the two terms bride price and bride wealth. The uses the term indirect dowry for the transfers which involves the property passing from the groom to the bride herself. In the Indian context, we call the same by the term satidham. Goody finds it wrong to label such prestation as bride price. This brings us to the discussion of dowry or direct dowry. Now let us discuss the dowry. In broad terms, dowry involves the transfer of valuable gift from the bride side to the groom side. Such a transfer of wealth is perceived to confer prestige and honor to both the sides. The bride giver gains prestige within his community by giving dowry, while the bride taker receives both wealth and prestige in his own and other communities. In 1961, the Government of India passed the Dowry Prohibition Act. In 1984 and again in 1986, the government amended the act to make the law more stringent and effective. For instance, the husband and his family can be penalized for demanding dowry if his bride dies within 7 years of the marriage in other than normal circumstances. This is the dowry prohibition cell to look into the complaints about the dowry. The legal provisions do not imply the end of marriages with dowry, though there are progressive young people who voice their strong opinion against dowry and marry without it. There are at the same time the young educated people who accept this practice and see no harm in it. Some get away by saying that it is their parents who perpetuate this practice. Demand for dowry exists among other communities like the Muslim and Christian. Often continuous demand for dowry even after the marriage caused discord in the family leading to divorce. Let us look at the issue of divorce and remarriage in India in the next section. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.